The Bluenote 4000 project continues here. It's Mazza here, and I feel honored being part of this, of a couple of entries into the 4000 series. A group of YouTubers, vinyl community members have started this, and it's centered around three members: Julius Jabbar, Sherv, Rob from Sound Strange, and Dave's Local Bandography, with a few guests along the way. And I'm going with the great Horace Parlan, not a familiar name by any stretch of the imagination for non-jazz freaks. This is Bluenote 4028, Movin and Groovin by Horace Parlan. This is Horace Parlan's first album as a leader, and the first of 4 records he recorded for Bluenote in 1960. This came out, I believe, in February 1960, and it has, of course, Horace Parlan on piano, Sam Jones on bass, and Al Harewood, I believe, may have played on most of his 1960 albums. I could be mistaken on that one. Interesting note on him, Horace Parlan, he was just not quite 30. I think he was 28, 29 when he recorded this album. And he came from working with the great Charles Mingus and Jazz Workshop. In the previous year, he was on this amazing album, Charles Mingus, which was on Columbia Records. So he was known in jazz world, great piano player. Now, a little back note on his piano playing, and this will be said in various Horace Parlan videos, I'm sure, about him personally. When he was a child, he had polio. So when he started playing piano, he didn't have the use of his 4th and 5th finger on his right hand. So the chord structure when he played was a little, I want to say bombastic, but it wasn't bombastic. It just didn't have the same detailed technique. Very influenced by Bud Powell in his playing, and a lot of his songs and his style is reminiscent of that, but he definitely takes it on his own and kind of runs with it. When you run through the 4 records he did this year and beyond for Bluenote Records. This is somewhat of an upbeat affair. It's a hard bop, but it's definitely not out there. It's somewhat traditional in its playing, and he has a very interesting chord structure. Right now I'm playing Bag's Groove, which starts outside 2 of the record. This happens to be a double 45 RPM analog production audiophile issue of it. But Bag's Train was a great song recorded earlier in the, written and recorded earlier in the 50s by the great Milt Jackson, who would later go on. He had his group in the 50s, would later be one of the founding members of the modern jazz quartet. This starts out with C-Jam blues. A lot of bluesy stuff on this record, mid-tempo blues, somewhat upbeat blues. One thing that really interesting, I remember when I first heard the version of this, the way he plays his chords, which you can hear a little bit in Groove Train. He has a little bit of that repetitive nature, but in that opening track, there's at one point I seriously thought my record was skipping, because he kept going back and forth, heavy chord structure, and it was a bit of a shock to the system from me when I first heard it. He has 2 songs on here that were from motion pictures, covers of Green Dolphin Street, which had been done in 1958 by Miles Davis, and later on, I think it's Stella by Starlight, which was from another motion picture in the 50s. So he goes through this whole chain of movie soundtrack and standards that were very big in the whole jazz world. Up in Cynthia's Room is, I think, the sole original competition on this, and became one of Horace Parlan's signature pieces beyond the 1960s, beyond 1960 in this album. Lady Bird, again, kind of a bluesy, a little more upbeat song. It Could Happen to You closes the album. Not talking about every single song on here, but it's got a really kind of bluesy feel overall to this album. Another great cover by Reed Miles with a small detail photograph by Francis Wolff. Bluenote Records, Horace Parlan, interesting piano player, someone that you all should know. During this time in 1962, he got to be a member of Lou Donaldson's group. So he was performing with Lou Donaldson this year, 1960, not his own trio. So again, this is Bluenote number 4028 from the wonderful project, the Bluenote 4000 series. Thanks for having me a part of it. I'll put a link down to the whole series, and a great way to get introduced to these amazing, amazing records. Thank you for watching.